So, hey everybody, welcome back to another great episode of Let's Get Creative. Some of you may not need an introduction because some of you already know who this person is from some of her creative work that's out there right now. But for those of you that don't know, please meet Mon Castro. She's a rising star in the film industry who has been making waves with a unique blend of humor and social commentary. And so with that, Mon, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thanks for being a
guest. I guess we just cut to the chase, describe your creative background and how you got started into the field, if you will.
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, I was born and grew up in Mexico City. Everybody in my family, they're more like into finances, but yeah, like my mom is a finance teacher, so nobody
Oh,
in my family is in the arts. Um, I guess I just always knew I wanted to be in the industry since I was one of those kids that grew up like glued to the screen. Like literally, I think TV raised me, and I always knew that I wanted to do it, but I didn't know exactly that it was a profession. It was so so vague and so weird, but I knew that I wanted to do it, but I didn't even know what I wanted to do. Um, but yeah, I started getting involved in all the creative things at school. I was the one producing the school plays even before knowing what producing was. And then I kept watching movies, I kept watching TV until everything clicked, and I realized that I wanted to be a producer. Well, I enjoy writing and directing as well, but producing, I say, it's like my real love, you know. And I don't know. I guess I just never changed my mind. Ever since I knew what it was, I never doubted it. I never second guessed it. I just had like a clear plan, and my mom always says it's so weird that I'm that way because I can have other plans in case something backfires, but once that I set my mind into something, it's just like
it's a
that
parent's
one
concern,
thing.
right?
Yeah, yeah, no, but I was like the producer of everything in school. So, and even in things in my friend group of like parties and events and stuff, I've always been into producing a lot. So I guess it just made sense for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very touching because I can also remember myself, and I think it's almost kind of the same story for a lot of us where, we're young and something just catches our eye because I know for myself it was the same thing. I was glued to the TV, but for me it really started mainly with music videos. I just remember the graphics and I thought how cool that was, and I just thought it was so fascinating and I just stuck to the TV. And I remember every day coming home from school, I had to watch this. You probably don't know what this is because it's like way back in the 80s, but it was Yo MTV Raps. That's like MTV was like really making a
Okay.
name for
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for me it
But
was
I
love.
mean, yeah. So
Yeah, I grew up
that's where
watching
you
that.
find the love and the passion, and it's
Yeah.
so beautiful how that manifests. And
Yes,
when
for
you're
sure.
and when you're with it, it is like an art that I don't know. I guess no one really understands unless you're like the artist.
Yes.
That's the beauty of art is like everybody has a unique talent,
Yes, no, for
so it's
sure.
beautiful.
And here, I mean, I am lucky enough that my mom has always been very supportive.
Yeah,
But she knows nothing about the industry. Like sometimes
nothing.
I even call her and tell her about my day, and she's like, "What?" Like everything she knows of it is because of me.
Yeah.
So I never really like grew up hearing somebody else talking about that. So it's just I have paved my own way, and going to film school was really important to me because that's the place where I started meeting all of these creatives. But
Right.
maybe if I hadn't, I don't know what would have happened. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing that you have because I've watched a couple of your films and your clips, and they're really, really great.
Oh, thank you.
What inspires you though, like to create, and what motivates you to continue creating?
Well, I guess what motivates me is remembering myself admiring these people. One of my biggest inspirations is the producer Deborah Hill. May she rest in peace. But being like knowing that there was this woman writer and producer so involved in horror was so important to me since I don't know, like I just grew up super attached to horror, but I kept hearing how horror is not for women or how I was never gonna be able to do it. I don't know. I guess I just like grew up in a very conservative background, in a very sometimes even sexist background, where I
Mhm.
thought that some of my interests would not align because I'm a woman, and I know that that couldn't be further from the truth. But sometimes one grows up listening to things and starts growing insecurities because of that. And I guess what part of what motivates me is that I want to not only prove them wrong because I know that they're wrong, but to show that it's possible that there can be like a woman in the industry in general, or particularly in horror, and that can be inspiring for other people. So that's what keeps me going, I guess. Not so much about proving, but to feel like I could and to be able to inspire others. So every time that I'm feeling down, I think about even myself in the past and be like, I want to be that person that I needed back then, or I want to be the person that I need right now.
And so she's kind of been like your rock though in the beginning, you would say she was your inspiration.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. And so like one of the unique things about that is now you become someone else's rock.
Yeah, that would
And
be my ideal scenario. Like if I realized that I did that for somebody, I would have known that, everything was worth it and that I did everything right. Because
yeah.
it's something that I feel like I was missing for so long. And if I can help at least one person, then I will feel fine with it.
And do you think that you've gotten a lot of support from a lot of people?
Well, I mean, I guess the answer is both yes and no, since I've had
Yeah.
really good experiences and also really bad experiences. I
Uh-huh.
have a group of friends. I used to hang out with all of these people in high school that all of them decided to become engineers or to pursue careers in STEM. And
That's
yeah,
funny.
when I went to like the kind of like the creative division in high school, because there were like four different groups of classes that you could take, and I went to the one of the creatives, all of these people stopped talking to me,
Yeah.
um, which was, yeah, like I fully lost a friend group because of that, and that was crazy. So I cannot say that everything has been like super easy and very supportive, because it hasn't. But I do have like a very good support system, both in Mexico and now here, of friends that always have my
Yeah.
back. Like one of my best friends, she's a fashion designer, and now she's doing the costumes for my thesis film.
Oh, beautiful.
It's
Beautiful.
so nice that you just end up finding people that you grew up with.
So it ended up working out in the long run.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But with some of your projects, I also noticed that there's a theme. I would call it underground rock, not so much goth, but like it's kind of that scene.
Well, I've always listened to that type of music, and I mean, I discovered bands like, I don't know, like the Sisters of Mercy or like Siouxsie and the Banshees very early on. So I guess that
Mhm.
has been very like engraved deep in me. When I was younger, I used to wear like way more makeup than I have now. Like I would be like full on that. So I've always been very interested in that. And one of my collaborators, she's a director and a production designer. Her name is Telma. She's also very much into that culture, and that's why we made this movie together.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's been one of the interests that I've had all my life.
Nice. You want to share a project or accomplishment that you are particularly proud of?
Yeah, right now, to come to mind, this project that I was talking about, the music, is called Punk Talk in English, and this one recently screened in San Diego Latino Film Festival. We have been also in London and in CineQuest with that one. And
Wow.
it's this story about a shy 15-year-old girl that one day is walking home alone at night and is in danger and is saved by this punk woman that takes her into her world. And yeah, I'm really proud of that one because the director and I were like trying to make a metaphor of the feminist movement that has been getting more and more visibility everywhere, but in Mexico City particularly since 2019. We have been taking public spaces and speaking out about all the violence and all the like injustices that have been against us. And we are using this band as a metaphor for that, and to show that no matter how bad your situation is, you will always find a place where you can feel accepted and that you can feel empowered. That for me and for the director, it was in this movement, but it can have global approach with any other situation that you can think of.
Which I guess will lead me to my next comment is like that's a good thing because this society in this day and age, it's so crazy right now. Everyone's perspective of what cool is, or what you have to be, or who you should be to be accepted. It's kind of nuts. you
Yeah.
know it just gives off the wrong impression for some people, and some people are discouraged, and it just, I don't know what it is and why we feel like we have to be accepted, and I don't know why people make other people feel like you have to be a part of this group to be anything. But your movies give a good message, and it's a good inspiration, and I think it'd be really helpful for a lot of people, just to see that hey, it's okay, you don't have to be a part of that group.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, your movies give a good message, and I think we need more of that. I watched a couple of your films, and I watched some trailers, and they do. And that one in particular, for some reason, really did touch me. The punk,
Mhm.
that was I thought that was a really good message. I like the fact that we can be creative in that form, is where we can see someone who looks intimidating, a gangster or a biker, or someone that looks like you would be scared of.
No, I think the problem also comes, like all of this judgment comes from lack of visibility, since in media, I think it's getting better, but it wasn't years ago, where the norm was seeing like white people who are straight and are in a, like a romantic relationship with somebody from the opposite gender, and I don't know, work like 9 to 5 jobs and have kids, and I don't know, like a very squared life. That I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's bad having it, but it's like it's not what everybody should pursue if they don't want to, and it's not
No.
how everybody is. And I mean, I'm not straight, and I've never had a 9 to 5 job, and I don't want to have kids, and I don't know, I just grew up seeing like characters in media, or seeing lifestyles in media that were never aligned to mine. So I guess I always felt like I was never gonna fit in. Also in the way that people would dress, or I've had colored hair since I was 14, so I've always been more crazy in that aspect, I guess. But I never saw myself represented on screen, and I think that's a big part of the problem. And in filmmaking and in TV, we can try to solve it a little bit, at least giving some visibility and some representations to different lifestyles, and that's something that makes me very passionate.
Definitely. So, how do you stay up to date with the industry trends and the techniques? Like, what do you have to do?
Well, I watch everything. I try, even if my schedule is quite busy, I try to watch everything, at least like one episode of everything that is out there. And I keep reading a lot of new scripts. I always read the Blacklist every year. I'm always reading also the Blood List or Coverfly, like all of these websites where they publish like undeveloped scripts, yeah, and unbought scripts. So I always keep reading. I read a lot. I watch a lot.
Mhm.
I'm always reading these articles in Deadline and Variety and the Hollywood Reporter. Like I always try to get my hands on everything, so I know who's out there, who's up and coming, and what are the new trends. And so I guess it's just doing a lot of research. Mhm.
Good. How do you think your work has impacted the industry or your community?
I think I'm doing a good job in showing the visibility of different lifestyles, and also the way that I approach humor and camp. I think it's also quite useful, since most of the time these topics are approached in a very sad way, and it's just seeing like sad on sad. And sometimes that's not that helpful, since that can be triggering at some points. I don't know. I guess always my coping mechanism has been humor, and I know that it's also from a lot of people's. So showing something that can be a good lesson or a good message, and showing it in a camp way, I think it's a very interesting contrast, um, that has like more layers to it. I don't know. I guess I've just used like this humor and this absurdity as a mechanism to do these things. So I think that resonates with new audiences since that's also kind of like the sense of humor that Gen Z has now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where do you so let me ask you this. I mean, where does your humor come from? Is that something you've done with your family growing up? You play pranks or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. No, my mom and I are really good friends. We have a weird sense of humor together. Yeah. Humor has always been very important to me. I am, no
Yeah.
matter how sad I am, no matter how down I'm feeling, I always try to approach it in a comedic way. I don't know. I guess nothing is that sad for me to not do it, or I just never lose that part of me, no matter how bad I'm feeling.
Mhm. I mean, we're coming close to the end of the show. Again, I just want to thank you for being there and giving us a lot of your story. It's very inspiring. I think for a lot of artists and a lot of people that are trying to come into the industry do find themselves in a bit of a bumpy road, I will say, because
Yes.
we're looking for one, we know we want to be in the industry. We want to be an artist, but we're looking for a direction. With that, I mean, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out?
I would say like try to do as many things as possible. Try to volunteer in as many sets as you can. Now with social media, it's easier since you can just like look on LinkedIn or look on Instagram or just post that you're available to work or to even just see. I'm speaking particularly of the film industry because that's the one that I know of. So I don't think I would be qualified enough to talk about musicians or, like painters or graphic artists. But when it comes to film, building a network is one of the most important things. Just having these people that you can collaborate with and that will keep bringing you into more projects. It's as somebody who doesn't come from the industry with my family, building a social network was key for me because once that you meet somebody, then you keep going into other. So just saying yes to everything, volunteering is in as many sets as you can, always being present, always being down to help. Um, and yeah, of course, always being respectful and kind to all of your peers, since that's super important, and that's what's gonna make you be hired again. More so about the experience, I guess it's more about the attitude.
Definitely. So just always just staying on the grind, being
Yeah,
creative, don't give up.
exactly. Never
Yeah,
giving up because it can get rough,
definitely.
but you never know. Maybe
Definitely.
in a week everything will be better. One never knows.
Definitely. And that's like one of the messages that this show definitely wants to highlight is the fact that it can be bumpy and it can be rough.
Yeah. No, for
Uh,
sure.
but don't ever give up. I mean, if this is what you want to do and this is your dream, I mean, you should definitely continue to chase after it, to continue to put in the hard work and effort. And I think one of the things that we often do too is that we like to compare ourselves, or we want our videos or our pictures to look like someone else's.
Yeah.
And so we find ourselves comparing. And I think that's kind of danger. I don't want to say
It-
dangerous, but
yeah.
it's hindering. It could be discouraging.
Yeah, for
And
sure. Because you're not yourself once you start
exactly,
doing it. Yeah.
exactly. But at the same time, I don't want to say to not look at other people's creativity because it can be kind of inspiring.
Exactly. Like never looking down on yourself. That's something that I'm still working with because I sometimes have really bad imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I even am I even talented enough to be doing this? Sometimes I have these intrusive thoughts and it's gotten easier the more that I've been in the industry, but it was quite bad before. So yeah, it's just being easy on yourself and keep being true to yourself and not wanting to change yourself to please others or to fit somebody else's art.
Well, you've definitely done the work and you've put in all the efforts into becoming who you are.
Mhm.
You've been in different film festivals. That's not an easy
Yeah,
thing. That is a big mark for a lot of people. And keep pushing and doing what you're doing because you are making a name for yourself. Your work is great. I think it tells beautiful stories. I think it can reach out to a lot of people. It's inspiring. As you mentioned, the people that you've worked with and you've gotten feedback from other people who were
yeah,
inspired and they thanked you for your movies and for putting something like that onto the screen. so that they can feel a connection. And that's what it's all about. That's what making videos, pictures, movies is all about, is making a connection with people. Before we go, you can find Mon. You do have an Instagram, and
Yes, I
it
do.
is. And
It's
what's the?
at Mon Castro B. My
Okay.
second last name is Busto. Yeah.
Okay. And you also have a website,
Yes. It is mon-castro.com.
and that's where you can find Mon and her work. And with that, once again, this podcast is sponsored by Spotify. This show is produced by Mozart Media and 319 Studio. Tune in, hit that like, subscribe, and we'll see you again for our future shows. Thank you.